Hello and welcome to Getting Started with Citrix Workflow Studio. In this video, I'm going to write a very simple workflow and get you guys started with Citrix Workflow. So as you can see, I have two options. I can either load an existing workflow or create a new workflow. Now, within a create new workflow option, I can create workflows from workflow templates. I'm going to talk about workflow templates in my next video. Now for this video, let's start by creating a very simple workflow and call it sample workflow and hit OK. This would launch the Workflow Studio Designer. Citrix Workflow Studio is loading all the task libraries. There we go. So now in the Workflow Studio, you can see many task folders such as Active Directory and for Citrix. So let's look at the Citrix Zen Server task. And you can see I can either create a virtual machine, can delete a virtual machine, and do many more tasks. There is a task folder for Windows PowerShell. The Windows PowerShell task folder contains common tasks like get process. Workflow Studio allows you to realize full potential of PowerShell without actually going to the command shell window. Workflow Studio is not just a graphical interface allowing you to use PowerShell, but it is a full engine for PowerShell as well. You can connect PowerShell tasks with non-PowerShell tasks to create automated workflows and never imagined functionalities. So now let's look at Workflow Studio also exposes more advanced tasks like for each loop, if then loop for more complex workflows. The center pane is called the designer pane. We can drag and drop simple task items like user input. I'm going to drag and drop get VM. And finally, I'm going to end the workflow by dragging and dropping the end workflow task to the designer pane. I'm going to join these workflows, and it's very easy to join, as you can see. And now I can click and arrange these tasks in one line. So the purpose of the workflow is to get a user input, which will be my password, and get a collection of all the virtual machines on my Zen server. So now let's configure user input task. So if I click on it, I can see the task configuration section, and I'm going to just put password as the variable for my output, and this would be the input to the get VM. And let's configure the window title. This is something which user would see when there would be a pop-up for the user input. And now configure the password character. And this is something when you type your password and you don't want others to see what you're typing. So I'm going to type in the standard character called star. So now let's configure a second task, get VM. In the get VM task, I'm going to connect to my virtual machine. So I would need a password, a username, and the IP address of the server. I'm going to connect at the standard port 80. So let's type in the name of my Zen server. And I would choose the default username root. So now we are ready to run our workflow. So I'm going to hit start. It would pop up a window title where I would input my password to the Zen server and hit OK. The workflow would now continue to run, and then the workflow would end. We can see the results in the results section. We can see each activity and its results. We can even see that our workflow returned us 12 virtual machines, and the workflow ended successfully. Now let's take a look at task configuration section. In this section, you can see I can configure some common properties, and I can also configure some design properties. In the design properties, I can configure description and the name of the task. I also have run results section where the results are stored after the workflow is run, like exceptions, etc. Now let's look at the event logging. So you can log events at the workflow level or at the task level. You can log errors, warnings, and information, and all the events are logged at the Windows event log. Now let's take a look at the debugging option. You can simply turn on and off the debugging, and you can step through a workflow. You can also save a workflow, and you can save it as a template. By saving as a template, you can reuse an existing workflow to recreate more complex workflows. This concludes the Getting Started video. I hope you enjoyed it.